Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kailin and I post new videos every single Saturday with a few sprinkled in between. And I post videos mainly about eating disorder recovery and intuitive eating. So if that's something that you're interested in, I would love for you to click onto that subscribe button down below and become part of our little family. But in today's video, we are going to be talking about comparison, which is a topic I get asked about all of the time and also a really big topic that I discuss with my clients. Comparison is defined as the estimation or consideration of similarities or dissimilarities between two things or two people. So when we compare ourselves to other individuals, normally we're not comparing what we have. Instead, we are comparing what we lack versus the other individual and what they most likely have. Whether that's money, whether it's better looks, whatever that means in your own books, beauty is subjective, a big social media following, whatever it is, people compare themselves all the time. And most of the time, it makes us feel really jealous or shitty, and those aren't feelings that I, at least, ever want to feel. And comparison is something that is supernatural. It doesn't matter if you have an insanely good relationship with your body and with your mind. Comparison just trickles into our everyday life, and that's okay. The goal of this video, and for me to be talking about comparison and some ways that we can kind of shift our mindset a little bit, is not to eradicate comparison completely, because that's super unrealistic. However, we don't want it to be at the forefront of our mind. A lot of the information too that I'm going to be talking about in this video, I took from several podcasts that I have listened to, so I'm going to link all of those in the description down below. So as I mentioned, the goal isn't to stop comparing ourselves, but essentially to change the narrative that we're telling ourselves. Because when we do make a judgment about another person or about ourselves, we are essentially telling ourselves a story of that person. So for example, I'm telling myself that that person has their ish together, that they have no problems, that their life is perfect, whereas my life sucks. That is essentially a narrative that can be told when I'm comparing myself to somebody else. When we make comparisons like that, we are making judgments, not only about ourselves, but about the other person in question as well. For example, the judgment or assumption that they do have a perfect life, that they don't have any problems because of their wealth or because of their beauty, or even because of their ability, whatever it might be. And when I learned about this kind of framework and how we can view comparison as a form of judgment, it made me really not want to engage in comparison at all, because I like to think of myself as a very non-judgmental person. And the only true reason that we compare ourselves to anybody else in this world is because we are afraid of what other people see or think about when they look at us. Because if everyone was blind and if nobody could see, nobody would be comparing themselves to anyone, because that possibility wouldn't be there, but we would also not feel that sort of judgment from other people. Compare will always equal despair, and it is essentially a recipe for unhappiness. I don't know anybody who just compares himself all the time and is a happy individual. It just doesn't happen. And in this huge world that we live in, there is always going to be somebody who is smarter than us, who is thinner than us, who is more successful than us, who is busier than us or more productive. But that doesn't mean that you aren't equally as beautiful or equally as important as those people. Somebody else's beauty or somebody else's success does not take away from your own. And that's a really important reminder, even if you don't believe it, to just continue to tell yourself that over and over and over, that somebody else's accomplishments do not take away from your own. There is actually one thing that you are the best at in the entire world, and nobody can beat you, and that's being you. Nobody can be you better than you can be yourself. So how do we stop comparing ourselves, right? This is the question. This is what the video is about. How do we stop this toxic train of thought that doesn't benefit anybody? Not you, not the other person. Nobody is benefiting from this relationship at all. And the first thing that I recommend you doing is being actively aware of your comparison tendencies. And this means writing down every single time you compare yourself to somebody. Who was it? What was going on? What time was it? This is all really, really important information for you to be able to see your pattern and your train of thought. So for example, if you find that you're always comparing yourself to the same person, that would be really valuable information for you to know. And you might already know without having this awareness of writing everything down, but sometimes we just have automatic thoughts and they kind of live in our subconscious and they just happen repeatedly all the time and we don't actually always process them. So really being hyper aware of your thoughts and writing everything down can be really, really helpful and also therapeutic in a way. So it's not living in your head, but living on the page or on your phone screen instead. If you are unaware of your behavior or of your patterns, you will not have the ability to change them. So then once we have our thoughts either on paper or on our phone, or we're just winging it and we're keeping track of it in our brain somehow, this is when we question our thoughts. So questions like, what does this person have that I don't have? Why is this something that's important to me? Is this something that I can achieve now or in the future? Why do I feel the pressure to have this same thing? Not only do we create our own happiness, but everybody has their own individual timelines in life. So for example, I'm going to give you an example about comparison. If you're scrolling on social media and you see somebody that you went to high school with is getting married, and you used to live at home with your parents, and maybe you're unemployed and it feels like you don't have a future going for you, yet somehow this person is out and being successful and finding love, and suddenly you get really, really jealous, envious, and you compare your life to this individual's life. And in a way, you feel like a failure, all because of one photo that you saw on social media. And all because we let our thoughts spiral and we ruminated with them and told ourselves this story that we are a failure because of where we are in life right now. However, just because somebody is getting married or somebody is having kids or bought a house or has started their own business does not mean that that is not possible for you, because everyone is on a different timeline. If we all bought houses and all had kids and all started our businesses, whatever it was, all at the same time, not only would that not be feasible, but it would just be predictable and boring, and none of these things would really be very special anymore because everybody does them at the same time. The housing market would crash, or our population numbers would be very, very strange and all over the place. And what it comes down to is that there would be no individuality. And individuality is the most beautiful thing that there is. There is not one human being on this planet that is you. You have that power. And that is so incredibly special. And the thing about life is that it will never, ever follow the exact timeline that you have in your head. Because life throws curveballs all of the time. Heck, the pandemic, nobody really saw that coming. And if they did, well then, kudos to you. But if we spend so much of our time thinking about where we are in life and where we're gonna be in 10 years and well, what if this and what if that, we are not living in the now. And essentially, we are wasting our days thinking about days that might not even be guaranteed to us. And I'm not saying that you can't be anxious about the future, because you can. We can feel excited and nervous for it, and we don't know what is to come for us. And I think that that is both beautiful and terrifying. However, with that knowledge, we can also still be very appreciative of the moment we are currently living right now. So part of not ruminating about our future or comparing our future to somebody else or comparing our lives in general is to get really comfortable with the gray area and acknowledge that you are the person that you are meant to be. You are in the exact place that you are meant to be. And if you want to work on yourself in certain aspects, you can. We can always work towards goals, right? So if we want to get married, are we putting ourselves out there? Or if we want to buy a house, are we saving money? If we want to start a business, are we brainstorming business strategies and ideas? These are things that we have to consider. Align yourself with your values and really narrow in on what is important to you. Because if what's important is somebody else's life, I think you need to reevaluate your own values and your own importance as an individual. The most valuable way to live a life is to live it instead of dream of what it could be like if you were somebody else. So think about it, right? All of the time that you spend comparing yourself to other people or other people's lives or whatever it is, you are wasting your valuable time. And also your potential. Think about everything that you can do during those hours of scrolling on social media or hours of comparing yourself to other people? What could you have done that could have possibly been more beneficial to you? A lot of things. And the main obstacle that's standing in your way is you and how you view other people. That is the only obstacle that is standing in your way. So if you have the desire to look like another person, you have to understand that you would have to be willing to give up every single part of who you are. If you want to look exactly like her or him or that person, you would have to switch lives with them. And what that entails is losing your family, losing all of your friends, all of your memories, your passion, your drive, your work, your hobbies, whatever it is. You would have to be willing to give up all of that in order to trade places with that other person as well. Is it worth it to lose your family, to lose your friends, to lose everything that you have, all of the knowledge that you have, just to look like another person and also take on their potential trauma and issues as well? Most of the time, the answer is no. Because when we put that on a scale, right, of this specific body or this specific person's life versus everything about us as an individual, this is what's more important versus a body, versus a face, versus money. And this has very, very little to do with what you actually look like and how you show up in the world. Instead, it's what you think other people are thinking about you or saying about you. So every time you compare yourself, or every single time you're insecure about a specific part of your body or who you are, ask yourself, would this matter if everyone was blind? Right? If nobody could see you, would it matter to live in the body that you currently live in? Probably not. And that's just a sign that it shows that it's nothing to do with your body and everything to do with your self-image and your self-esteem. Remind yourself what is, so you are safe, you are loved, or you have people who love you. You are important. This is what we should be valuing. Not, oh, her hair, or her this, or her body, or their whatever. That's not where our focus should be. Something else that I recommend, especially if you're very prone to comparing yourself to people very often, is to open the notes app on your phone or some kind of plain text that you have on your phone or laptop. I recommend phone because most people have it with them everywhere they go, and just start a gratitude list. So every single morning, maybe write down 3 things on this list, even if you repeat yourself constantly, of things that you are grateful for. And then when you feel prone to compare yourself or to feel judgmental about yourself or even somebody else, pull out this gratitude list and just reread it to yourself, ground yourself in your values, and really hone in on what's important to you. And you can write things like, I'm grateful for coffee, I'm grateful for my beating heart, I'm grateful for my love of X, Y, and Z. Whatever it is, it's valid. And just read that list over and over and over again. Gratitude really helps ground us in the moment, and it also has the potential to change our outlook on life and what's truly important. So some other ways that we can also try to prevent comparison is to make sure our social media is a safe place for us. If I'm always comparing myself to the same social media influencer, even if they do have a positive influence on me, it might not be healthy for me to engage with them in the moment. Because we want to make sure that when we open that app that we're not seeing anything that's going to trigger us or make us feel poorly about who we are. And also understand that you are comparing yourself to a person that potentially doesn't even exist. Because this is the story that we are telling ourselves about this person. For example, on social media, we see a fitness influencer who has just this stereotypical good body, and they're on vacation and they're on the beach and they're drinking these smoothies, and they just look like they have a very put together family or whatever it might be. This is the image that they are putting forward. But we can understand logically that there's a lot more that goes behind the scenes, that people have trauma, that people have mental health issues, that people are not always happy even though they post smiling photos. So what we are comparing ourselves is to this representation of this person that might not even be true. And even when people do put forward body acceptance content like their rolls or cellulite or whatever it might be, these are also curated images, and sometimes they're color edited, and sometimes 100 photos were taken and they chose the most flattering one. So never try to compare yourself to what you see on social media, because that shit is real fake. And also ask yourself, how would you feel truly if you knew that somebody was always comparing themselves to you, right? So, oh, I wish that I looked like you. I wish that I had this from you. I wish that I was exactly like you. It's really not a good feeling, and chances are your reaction to that kind of statement would be, no, right? Like, I have so many demons in my mind. You are wonderful just the way you are. What makes you beautiful is this. We don't want that kind of comparison made to us, so why would we inflict that onto other people? And ask yourself why you value appearance so much or money so much. These are questions that you really, really have to ask yourself. And when you are comparing yourself to other people, remind yourself of said values and what you truly value versus what society wants you to value. And also, don't be afraid to ask yourself what you need to be in communication with your body. Do you need reassurance, validation, love, just a hug? Sometimes asking yourself that question can really pull you away from the sort of comparison game that we play in our minds. You don't have to wait for other people to give you those things. You can give them to yourself, right? So if you're looking for validation, tell yourself you're doing a good job. If you're looking for a compliment, tell yourself that you're pretty. Nobody else owes you anything or is in charge of your own happiness. You can take control, and it's totally possible. And also, remind yourself of your strengths, because when we compare ourselves to other people, we are comparing the worst of ourselves, so our worst characteristics or what we deem as flaws, to the best image that another person is putting out. So that really isn't a battle that you can ever win. How is that even a fair fight? It isn't. And also, just as a side note, we literally see ourselves all the time. So we see ourselves in the mirror, in reflective surfaces, in photographs. We see ourselves all the time. So our appearance and our uniqueness is no longer super unique to us. So when we see other people, we appreciate them in a way that we will never appreciate ourselves. And I mean, it's a really cheesy example to use, but all flowers are beautiful and they all come in different shapes and sizes, but it doesn't take away from their beauty. And it's very much the same with people. We are all unique, we are all different, and nobody's beauty takes away from anybody else's. And the only reason that we feel pressure to fit into a beauty standard is because of the billion-dollar beauty industry. It's the only reason. If it didn't exist, we would not have the insecurities that we do today. And in a perfect world, we would love ourselves. However, we do not live in a perfect world. I'm not asking you to love every part of yourself. That's just impossible and super unrealistic. But you do have to accept yourself and also be comforted in the fact that being you is enough. Shift how you view bodies, shift how you view beauty, how you view success. Focus on your own personal growth and your goals and not anybody else's. Comparison is never going to be a fair game. Nobody has even footing, right? People can be born into affluent families. People have different backgrounds, different struggles, come from different places, and all of this impacts who we are and also, to a certain extent, our success. You can't compare water and sunshine, but they are both equally important to our survival. And I really hope that some of what I've said today sticks with you to some extent, and we can try our best to truly refocus what's important to us and why comparison is never ever going to lead to anything beneficial. And like I mentioned, it's super natural to compare ourselves to other people, and if we aren't willing to combat these thoughts, then we're never going to see any change. If you have any other specific questions about comparison or about anything in general, make sure to leave them in the comment down below, or just leave me a kind comment saying hi. Or if you do have a more in-depth question, you can pop over to my Instagram account and send me a DM, and I'll try my best to respond. But without further ado, that is it for today's video. I hope you got something from it. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in my next video. Do something kind for yourself. Bye guys.